All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what today's podcast is going to be about is stop letting others convince you on what you should and shouldn't eat. I think I might have done some things related to food, some content regarding that, or diets and things in other podcasts, but I wasn't dedicated, or I didn't dedicate myself to a specific podcast regarding the subject of food. And what makes me bring this up is there was just a study regarding meats. And I usually don't believe in all studies. I think most of them are a scam to more or less make you do or not do something, especially nowadays more than ever. I don't trust anything, to be honest with you, but I do listen on their perspective. But when it comes to food, as you know, a lot of times in the past, and it could be drinks as well, milk is good for you, then it's bad for you, then it's good for you, then this percentage milk is good, and then this percentage is better, and then whatever, and that could go for eggs were healthy, then they weren't. All these different types of things, as you know. And they come out with these different charts my entire life saying, carbs were good, then they're bad, then moderate them. And then if you do this diet, it could be an Atkins. And then you got South Beach diet. What's the I don't even know how to say that one. I forgot it. Pelote? I forgot. Who gives a shit? I could care less about it. I don't believe in diets anyways, to be honest with you. And I'm going to give you my perspective on all this. So I've talked about this before, is that one of the biggest identities we have, or one of the things I think that make us who we are the foods we eat. And we all, no matter who we are, I don't care if you were adopted or I don't care if you were born into a family, you grew up eating a certain type of food. And a lot of us love that food. So I grew up in an Italian household. I actually was exhausted from Italian food because that's basically, for the most part, what my mother mastered and cooked, along with my grandmother, my step-grandfather, and then my immigrant grandparents on both sides of the family. A majority of my aunts and uncles are all Italian on both sides of my family. That's all I ever ate. So even throughout high school, all the way up until high school, and my mother's an amazing cook. She even cooked for the Archdiocese. She'd have a St. Joseph table where literally 500 people, I think, would show. They'd wrap around a gymnasium. So my mother can cook. I know what it is to be around great food. My father owned a bar, nightclub, restaurant. He ended up opening even a beef stand, Chicago style, in Florida. It was really good. I think it had some of the highest ranking Yelp, or one of the highest number ranks. I think he was at like 96% best reviews. He's very strict when it comes to food being perfected. But let's get back to how I look at food again as far as us growing up in that environment. Now, you may have grown up in an environment where you don't like your food. I don't know. But again, I was around a lot of Italian people who love food, cherish it, and they love the way their family, for the most part, they love what they grew up eating. And even if they knew certain family members weren't good, other ones were. I have aunts that are great cooks, and then I have aunts that aren't that good, but their husbands, my uncles, are great. And then if they weren't great, their kids were great. I have, like I was just saying, grandparents, some that cooked better than others. And when it comes to food, now I work out a lot, if you know anything about me, so I'm always working out, so I think I burn off a lot of, calories working out. So I do have the luxury of eating a lot and burning off a lot. And I have a theory on, as long as you're not constantly eating shit food or a ton of it, you can burn off a lot of shit food even if you eat junk food off and on or consistently, because I do. To be honest with you, I travel a lot. Sometimes I don't have a choice. I mean, sure, I do have a choice at other times, but sometimes I am in a pinch and I just have to grab something to eat. And I eat it and I don't get caught up with it. But when it comes to food, the number one thing you have to realize is you, regarding your genetics, are like no one else. I don't even care if you're, unless maybe again you're a twin or a triplet or something in that nature. But I still think, for the most part, And that's, far and few between. For the most part, we all have different genetics. It may not even look like it from the outside sometimes with siblings and things, but internally, we are all different on many different levels, the way we think, what we do throughout the day as well. And you're not going to escape that. You're not escaping your genetics. I always say you can't escape your own body. You may think you can, but you're not. That's the one place it's not going anywhere. It's not like you could jump into another body or into another universe. At least, not that I know of. What you have to learn about food is studying yourself. I always talk about this. It could be in fitness. It could be on making improvements, self-awareness, all these things. Most people are great at studying other people's behaviors or pointing out the flaws and strengths, but never really study themselves, which I'm going to actually do a podcast just strictly on studying yourself. But in this case, as you know, a lot of times if I lined up 10 people, and we all had them drink and eat different foods, each one of them is going to come out feeling different. Some good, some bad, some in the middle, some are allergic to things, all these different types of things. And also there's an emotional thing to food. Like, it's a personal thing. What you like and don't like as well comes into play. You may even not like the way certain foods look compared to others. And that could go for meats, fish, chicken. It goes down the line, right? So what I'm getting to here more than anything is you need to learn what works best for you, what makes you feel the best, but also helps you. And I know obesity is on the climb, right? We all know that, especially in North America. But I think globally I think to a certain degree, on an incline. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. You just hear about it all the time. Hold on, let me get some water. Which reminds me, if you can drink a substantial amount of water, it is going to help flush a lot of shit out. I promise you that. It's going to bloat you a little bit when you first start drinking a lot of water, and you're going to have to piss a lot. But I promise you, once you're hydrated, and it doesn't take, again, like a day or two to start feeling hydrated. It takes long periods of time, I believe, to start seeing the difference and feeling that difference. It could be a month. It could be 2 months, depending. But most people, I think, are not drinking enough water, including me at times. And if you do work out in between your workouts, you want to be drinking as much water as possible. I almost call it like including it into each and every, set. So if you did a set, drink some water. Do a set, drink some water. Not that you have to do it every set. And if you're doing cardio or whatever the case may be, you really want to make sure you're hydrated. But back to food, what you really have to understand is you as your own specimen, or whatever you want to call yourself, you have to analyze what you're eating and how it makes you feel. And what it's doing to your body. Okay, is it making you obese? Is it making you look malnutritioned? Do you literally have, when you're going to the toilet, is it making you feel sick? Are you throwing up? Do you feel okay? Is it, everything you're doing to your body on every level is affecting it. And it's constantly changing and evolving. One of the things that makes it change for the better or worse a lot of times is food. You have to understand that you're putting these things inside your body. It's just like a car or anything else, maintaining it. But if you're putting in shitty gas constantly, it's going to kind of run shitty, right? If you start to, put good things into your body, and that doesn't mean you have to always be healthy. I'm telling you, people get obsessed when they start to hear certain things about foods, I think, or diets and all this. They just want to jump on these bandwagons. Not only that, you're most likely not going to keep up with it. So that's what I was going to get into with diets too, is most people, if you look at your life, you've been eating a certain amount of food for most of your life. I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. You ate that food because you loved it. It's comfortable. Like for me, I mainly like Italian foods, I realized. Of course I could eat a burger. Of course I can eat a steak, and I can eat other foods. But for the most part, I love eating Italian foods. Now, as I'm getting older, I had to back off on certain things, including pasta. I can't maybe eat as much. But I also realized the time of day when I was eating it affected me. I also realized, like I said, portion control, and also finding a lot of different dishes that may be upsetting my stomach, meaning a lot of like things cheese related, or that have milk in them, or cream. Because now I'm 50, so I am feeling different, so I kind of stay away from that. But there are hundreds of dishes that are Italian that I can eat that I love. So if you're eating, for instance, certain foods, and you could tell you're getting obese off of it, I mean, you got to get your head out of your ass. If you eat tons of anything, I think to a certain degree, and you're not burning anything off, you're going to get heavy. All right? I mean, it's just kind of common sense. I mean, you want to blame McDonald's or you want to blame Burger King or fast food on a lot of people. I don't believe that. I believe the problem is laziness. Because, again, everything you're putting in, you're not burning off. Right? And I'm not saying to go out and eat. You could go out and eat tons of shitty food and then burn it off. That's healthy either. But you kind of know what's good and bad. You can also tell by your skin a lot of times. Like what's affecting you as far as grease goes, or just the way you look in your face. And the thing about food that I realized, very similar to water, is it doesn't affect you always. Like, I mean, of course it goes in your stomach. It affects you that night or that day. But as time goes on, start seeing what's going on. And even if you have to take notes, but pay attention to everything that everything you consume. And a lot of times it could be, like I was mentioning earlier, it could be the times you're consuming it or mixing different things. And I don't think a lot of people, especially younger people, think about that. And I remember someone once saying, Rich, when I was getting very heavy, I was eating like 5,000 calories a day. I did it for years. I used to eat a steak a day too. That's how crazy I was. Even though heart disease runs in my family, everyone said I was crazy. It's going to force a heart attack, which maybe in the future it will. I haven't had any problems. Maybe because I've worked out, I've gotten a lot of blood flow. That doesn't mean anything, but a steak a day made me very strong. And just eating a lot of food made me very big. And as much as I felt sometimes kind of out of shape, I also felt very good and powerful and strong. So there's strengths and weaknesses. But what I was going to say too is sometimes with food, if sometimes you're feeling shitty eating certain things, it could be not only the time of day, it's what you're mixing. So like I can't do coffee in the morning, even though when I was younger, I loved coffee, Italian coffee, espressos and cappuccinos. Like as a little boy, it was crazy. And even as a little boy, I started to drink them, and then my heart would race. I was drinking too much, and then I'd run out and play sports like an idiot, and drinking espressos. I don't even know what the hell I was doing. Then I literally quit coffee till I was like 16, 17. I started to working for a village in Melrose Park where I lived, which is mainly all Italians, and back to espresso and coffees. They made them fresh, delicious. It was almost like addiction. So I started to drink those in the morning, and it just burned my stomach. Now I didn't drink coffee till my mid-40s. I was done with it. What I realized was I couldn't drink coffee in the mornings like everybody on an empty stomach. It burned a hole in my stomach. But in the afternoon or at night, I loved it. I loved the flavor. I wasn't in it for the caffeine. But that was just one thing I realized even when I was younger. This is one thing I can't drink in the morning. But what I started to do was eat oatmeal and an orange juice. I've been doing that for basically consistently since high school, I want to say, for the most part. And that has been something that has been amazing for me. And I also used to take a Flintstone vitamin. I know that may sound crazy, whatever the case may be, and then my doctor told me to up it. But as far as vitamins go, that's really all I've taken for the majority of my life. And it's worked for me. But if I get sick, what's pretty crazy is, which is far and far few between, like once a decade, I overload on oatmeal and I overload on orange juice, and I just drink orange juice. I'll even throw in some cranberry juice, and then I drink a bunch of healthy smoothies and just keep loading in a lot of fruits and vegetables in my body. And it's almost like I can just tell my body is craving that when I'm sick. It's a mental thing. I start doing a lot of honey. And these are things that I studied and learned that worked for me. And I think for my age, and I'm not saying I have a six-pack, but I could still probably get one if I really put my mind to it, if I really started to just cut back on certain things. That doesn't mean going on a diet or going into a contest. But I think by working out my entire body helped. But again, me learning what works for me as far as eating goes. And again, the times. Now that I'm older too, I realized if I'm eating later, for one, it keeps me up at night. And also, I belch. I just don't feel good the later I'm eating. And that doesn't mean, and the thing about me is when I travel sometimes, I have no other choice but to eat late. Because sometimes I'll start at 7 in the morning and my day doesn't end until 2 in the morning. Sometimes, so at around, it could be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm starving. I'm going on a fourth meal. But I have to be very careful, again, of what I eat. And that's what you should be doing. You should be studying all these different types of things, because for people to come back to you and say, you shouldn't eat this, you should only eat that. You shouldn't do this, you should do that. This causes this causes that. I don't know about you, but my immigrant grandparents, my great-grandfather lived well into his mid-80s, I'm pretty sure. My grandmother lived almost to 94 years old, heavy-set Italian, never exercised a day in her life, ate nothing but Italian food and fattening foods. And I know food was different back then as far as being processed and all that, all that jive. I get it. But I find it quite interesting a lot of times with back to genetics is how some people can smoke their whole life and live to 100. Other people could smoke for 5 years and end up with cancer, throat cancer. It's just, and the same with food. Some people, as you know, can eat all different types of food and never gain weight. Some people that I know eat very little and become very heavy. Again, everybody's their own thing, right? But I do think one thing, if you are looking to eat the food you love, now I don't know what you eat, and as long as you have moderate portions and they're portions that you don't overload. And I think our country a lot of times overloads on foods, mainly in restaurants, especially like say even ordering appetizers. I forgot how, appetizers, how much billions of dollars are spent on appetizers. And the truth is a lot of times we don't need them. It's just added calories. And then we force our meal down because a lot of times appetizer soup or a salad, then the meal. And the meal portions are very large, not including the drinks we're intaking. All these things, we become kind of gluttons. And I get it. I live it myself as well. It's an experience, right? But I do think sometimes we were programmed to say, hey, you have to have 3 meals a day. Or, no, now you have to have 5 meals a day. They're just smaller meals. Or you have to eat, this amount per day of calories. Or you have to do this or that. Again, I'm calling bullshit on everything and everyone. I think a lot of what has been programmed is for them to sell you more products, more food, to consume more, spend more money. And I think originally, and I may be wrong, I know the Italians, I can't speak for, but I think a lot of people, and even when I'm in Italy, like in the morning they eat something very small and maybe a cappuccino or something, or an espresso. And I'm not saying that's a great way to start your day. It's not good for me, but then people would eat a later lunch or a lunch, and then, as you know, like a lot of Europeans, they eat a later dinner. And if you go to Europe, they're a lot thinner, at least that I'm seeing. Are they healthier? I'm not sure. A lot more may smoke than, I think our country to a certain, I can't say they smoke more, but a lot of people still smoke there that I saw. But when our country started to, I think, say kids with cereals, or you had to have these big breakfasts like, eggs, bacon, sausage, and as you know, then pancakes, and then as you know, French toast was added. All these things became, very fattening. And again, they talk about breakfast being the most important meal of the day. I can see that. But here's another thing. I can see breakfast being big, right, or being good because you are starting your day, as long as you can carry that, because I think it makes a lot of people tired. But if you like a big breakfast, go a little lighter on the lunch and very small on the dinner, I think. That's just something I would do. And I used to work out with a lot of guys, and I worked out even with professional boxers. And when they wanted to maintain their weight, what I saw is a flip of what most people were doing. A lot of people kind of skip breakfast, do the coffee, donut, or, bagel, croissant type thing, whatever the case may be. And then lunch, decent portion, and then a big dinner, like a lot of people. And then they sit on their ass, so that dinner just sits on them. But what I saw professional boxers doing that wanted to, keep a certain weight is they ate a big breakfast. They'd work out and burn that breakfast kind of off, and then eat a moderate lunch, and then for dinner just basically have a salad or something very light, and that helped maintain their weight. When I wrestled in high school, I didn't really have to worry. If I had to lose weight, I could lose it. I could just burn it off really quickly. Sometimes I would kind of starve myself, but I learned a lot about that, as well as, like I was saying earlier, the time of day you're eating your foods. means a lot. So these are all just things that I wanted to go over with people. And it's really, the podcast more or less is about protecting yourself and not being convinced a lot of times that, a lot of foods that you love that you have to give up, because I think you're lying to yourself most of the time. If you're a parent, you want your kids a lot of times, not always, to kind of eat the same foods you grow up on. Not always. I mean, I think a lot of people, when I lived in San Diego for a while, I could tell they had their own cuisine. And a lot of parents that I even knew that were from maybe different parts from New York, Chicago and all that, they took on a healthier, lifestyle for their kids as far as food goes. And I thought that was great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think a lot of times we don't want to lose our culture. We still want to show our kids kind of what we grew up eating. And we obviously, they eat that as well. And again, if you teach your kids portion control and teach them that, I think, a balance, because I think, especially in North America, it's almost impossible not to eat fast food once in a while, or not always get healthy food. And I see this a lot, even if you go to, I don't care if you go to a Super Bowl party, I don't care if you go to a kid's birthday party, or you just go to any party sometimes, or it could be even an event for work. A lot of times, as you know, there's food everywhere, and a lot of them just isn't healthy food. Even when I was making films, or I've been on film sets, a lot of the catering area, or whatever you want to call that, there's a lot of unhealthy foods. In a pinch, sometimes you're going to end up eating these type of foods. So just something to really think about. Be realistic and be knowledgeable for yourself, not for everyone else. And quit worrying about what everybody else is doing, except if you're a parent with children. Obviously, you want to help your kids eat healthy. But I see a lot of people kind of judging others. But if I look at them, people, a lot of times, it seems like there's like a catch-22 a lot of times with, I think, nutrition. I've noticed some people that don't like to eat a lot like to drink a lot. And I think they don't want to eat their calories, they want to drink them. And I don't understand that part of it. And when I say drink it, I do mean alcohol sometimes. Or I see other people starving themselves where they don't need to do that. Or they go through these, it's very emotional, I guess you could say, with food. 1 week they feel fat, so they're not eating. And then the next time they're eating a lot. And then the next time I see them, they're on a health kick for an X amount of time. And then next time I see them, they're eating a bunch of junk food. Or there are a lot of people I know out there that are in front of people. And I just ran across this. That's what makes me think about this. Let me get a glass of water here. They're bullshitters. And they're telling everybody how to eat, what to eat, all these different types, or what they don't eat. And they could be even at a restaurant with you, or you come to their house, or they only eat certain meals. And then behind closed doors, they're eating, chips, and that's not even a bad thing, but eating a lot of shit foods. They're not who they say they are. And they don't eat what they say they eat. They may at different times. But a lot of people, I think, have to quit the bullshit. And if you are bullshitting people, just be honest. And also, just shut the fuck up sometimes. Because everybody has to realize you have to eat what, again, is going to make you feel and look your best. And again, that's always not going to be great food. But just make sure you study yourself. I don't want to get redundant here. But I want to really emphasize that, because too many people listen to too much bullshit online, in magazines, books, all these different doctors. A lot of them do have great information, but a lot of what you're hearing is, like I said earlier, it's marketed to you to make you think sometimes you could be eating something you think is healthy and it's not that healthy. So just don't be bullshitted like that, okay? And don't be bullshitted by grocery stores too. I think it's scam to a certain degree. I like Whole Foods. There are some things that are extremely overpriced. I don't believe in a lot of their bullshit, even though I do go there at certain times. And I don't mean to throw them under the bus. I like Trader Joe's. We have Publix in Florida. There's Jewel in Illinois. I mean, there's Giant on the East Coast, the West Coast. What do we used to go to? Ralph's a lot, Vons. They're all great. They're good. But a lot of times I think people are being fooled thinking that they're paying a lot of extra money for something that's they claim a lot healthy for you or healthier for you, when I really don't necessarily believe that. All right? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. You get a chance, you might want to check out my YouTube channels, my YouTube channel, Rich Celenza, and I also have a website, richcelenza.com. There's a lot of information on there about me as well. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And on my YouTube, I've been doing a lot of fitness stuff. So if you like this type of stuff, and if you go back on some of my podcasts, I talk about food and things like that as well. All right. Take care. And if you're traveling, safe travels.